Hi, I'm here with Jeanne McNulty-King, who is currently in her beautiful home surrounded by four beautiful dogs. Who sort of we needed to deal for a moment, but it's been the business has been handled, the furry business at least. And I want to ask you about the name of your agency because we had some issues with how it's supposed to be read, how one should pronounce it. So if you could just explain.
Yes, so it's just 2X Inc. So when I decided to start my agency, it's like, how do we come up with a name? And I only represent female athletes. And so I always quiz people, said, well, you figure out what 2X Inc. means. If I only represent females, try to give them a little hint. So there's your hint. And
Okay,
you get,
chromosomes. Okay,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay.
Yep. 2X chromosomes. So my husband's a physician and he came up with that. So that was cool. And then I sat with some friends and we sat in a bar and a restaurant bar and drew out on a napkin kind of a logo. So that was in the early days.
Okay, and those early days were the year 1998. We will get to
Mhm.
that in a moment. But first, because according to your website, the tagline of your agency is representing the female athlete. And as you said, you only represent female athletes. So, my question is, in your understanding, why do female athletes in particular need representation?
In my opinion, and I have to say I have represented a couple guys, but it was a unique situation. Like I had a wife who I represented asked me if I could get her husband a job. So that was kind of fun, but then I just kind of put them off to my partners. So I can't say completely, but for the most part, female athletes, as well as broadcasters, coaches, etc. So um, the men's game obviously they make so much more money. So in my opinion, if an agent is representing the men and women, I think it's just human nature that their focus is going to go towards the male that they're making, their meal on.
Where the
So
money is? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and as much as they would try, it's the men are much more demanding and there's a lot more to it. And I just think it's important to have somebody who isn't in it just for the money, in it to actually take care of the women. And I love what I do, and it's been awesome.
Okay. And you're a former athlete yourself, a member of University of Montana's Athletic Hall of Fame, but
Mhm.
your pro career didn't get off to a good start, right? So we will revisit your college career in a moment, but first I want to ask you, let's get the unpleasant things out of the way. So it's available on your website, but I would like you to maybe retell the story.
Okay, perfect. When I finished up, it was a different day back then. Obviously, we didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones. I'm really aging myself, but I got a phone call one day and it's just, hey, I'm so and so, and would you like to go play ball in Spain? It wasn't something I even had thought about. It never crossed my mind to go play professionally. And I was like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I? I was on a plane in a couple of days heading to Spain. And I got there and it was great for a couple of days. The team took my passport and I didn't have a ticket. They took my passport when I got there. And I'm like, that seems weird, but what do I know? And I didn't have the car I was supposed to have, the apartment we lived in. I was with another American, Tina Guillory, and we would have to walk to practice at night. And it was up in Santiago, La Coruna area. So it was Basque country. And that was kind of dangerous back then. Looking back, I'm surprised my dad let me go. But there was car bombings and that kind of stuff. So we're walking to our apartment to and from practice. The apartment had broken out windows, no heat. And all they would say to me is, no, my problemo. I didn't speak a lick of Spanish. So it was really stressful. And when I tried to reach my agent, he didn't exist. So he clearly got his money and was gone.
Mhm.
And I was just kind of there fumbling. So I lasted a whole 10 days. I remember getting on a phone and pretending I was talking to a lawyer. I wasn't talking to anybody. and they gave me, I was able to leave. But the airport was in Santiago, which was like 3 hours away. And so they put me on a bus or a taxi, whatever I did. And I got there and went to check in. They had called ahead and canceled my ticket. So it was a nightmare. I talked my way home. I didn't get my luggage ever. but I got home and swore I would never, ever leave America again.
Okay. And then 4 months later, I think, right? According to the
Uh-huh.
story, you're on
Yeah,
a plane to Australia, leaving
right.
America.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
come on, Australia. Who's not going to go to Australia if given the chance? But I thought, what the heck? I had at that point, I finished college and thought, let's give it a go. It was a different agent, obviously, and that experience was phenomenal. It was everything you could want. It was in Sydney. People were amazing. I had a great, great time.
The language barrier didn't exist, which was also probably
Yeah, they talk pretty fast though and have a heck of an accent, but yeah, I could
that's
understand
true.
most of
Yeah, yeah, that's
it.
true. That's interesting. Okay. So prior to Pro Bowl, you were an esteemed amateur basketball player back at Whitehall High School, and you were named your team's MVP 4 years in a row. But you're also one heck of a track athlete. So what made basketball triumph over track?
I think basketball is it's a team sport and you get to share it together. I mean, track is a team too, but it's individual, right? You win as a team if everyone, but it's not you just rely on yourself. And basketball, you learn so much and it's so many life lessons you can get from that game that really just the whole team concept of it really drew me to it.
Okay.
Plus it's
And
indoors.
plus, yeah, it's indoors. Yeah.
Indoors, you're not
Yeah.
running in the snow and the rain and the
Yeah, that's true. And how were you recruited, if I may ask? Because we're talking about we're going deep. And right now I am aging you. Sorry for that. But 1980s, right? How you were recruited? Were you recruited? How did recruitment look back then?
Yeah, so Montana is a very storied program. And even at
Mhm.
that time, it had only been in existence for, I want to say maybe, I don't know, maybe 8 years, maybe a little more. But so I always knew I was going to go to Montana and represent my state. I have 5 older brothers and very close with my family, and I wanted them to be able to see me play. But I took some trips. I went to Fresno, I went to Utah, maybe where else did I try? I went to Washington State, did those visits, but I committed to the University of Montana during a basketball camp in the summer before my senior year, I believe.
Okay.
And the
And
coach there, Robin Selvig, 38 years, a head coach there. So he's
yeah.
phenomenal.
And you were recruited there on the basis of high school basketball? Just high school? Okay,
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
we didn't have AAU back then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I wanted to ask. Were there like amateur leagues where you could play, but no AAU
No,
back
a
then?
couple camps in the summer, and that's it.
Yeah, okay. Then maybe that's why like the talent wasn't really outsourced. You looked for players in state, right? Because it was
Yeah, we had
just
most of our players were in
outsourced.
state at that time, which was
Yeah.
also something to be really proud of.
Yeah, and you
We
were
succeeded.
improving each year for the Lady Grizz. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
Ah, okay. Except for that year that you've missed due to the shoulder injury, which you clarified because there was this gap year on like your website on Basketball Reference. So how hard was it to sit out a whole season with an injury, and how hard was it to come back to regular competition?
It was really hard, especially that year. We did really well. We played Stanford and almost beat them, and so sitting back and watching was tough. But it also made me grow a lot too, right? And watching instead of playing and learning and being a part, but having to take that role of a back seat. It made me grow a lot as a person, which was really important. You know, you have so many setbacks, and it's how you deal with them that matters. So it taught me a really good lesson. And then
Hmm.
coming back in, and I came in with all those girls, and then they're now all a year ahead of me. And so just getting to know the new chemistry, the new team, and but I was put in a much larger role too. So that was great. We had a super successful year.
Yeah, just by looking at the numbers themselves, because I was looking for some newspapers, looking through some newspapers, looking for some articles, and there's not really a lot of them. So I just had the numbers to
Uh-huh.
prepare for this. So the numbers themselves are really impressive because your senior year, you progress from 13 points per game to 20 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, 1.9 steals per game, and you lead Montana to a 27-3 record. So what happened that you've made such strides? Was it just like maturity, or what else was involved?
I think a lot of that maturity, confidence, getting put seen as a leader, being put in a different role, and also my coach accepting that he's not going to change my turnaround jump shot that he hated. Yeah, no, just time and growing and getting stronger and more confident in myself, and great
Okay.
coaching
Oh, okay. Okay.
and great
That's
teammates.
Yeah, that's two important things, right? And so you founded your agency in 1998, right?
Mhm.
But you graduated in 1990, if I remember correctly. You had those adventures in Spain, which wasn't a good adventure, but a good adventure in Australia. And
Uh-huh.
what were you doing up until 1998?
I was a pharmaceutical rep.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Okay.
tried the job world. I interviewed and I had this half of the state of Montana. I traveled around and was a pharmaceutical rep. And then the WNBA started. And I'm probably leading you into maybe your next question.
Okay.
Um,
Although my question is actually, before I get to that, because because you were a pharmaceutical rep, but you didn't stop playing basketball. There's some
right.
there's some evidence that you won the 3-on-3 Hoop Fest tournament for 3 years in a row. So I was able to find that.
Yeah.
So were you playing with your old teammates? What was that group like? Yeah,
So we
old
had
teammates. Okay.
we created a group of old players, ex-players, I should say, and we would travel around the state actually and play colleges as kind of just to help them and to still keep playing. We had we called ourselves Deja Vu, which whatever, that can be taken bad because I think there's some other things called deja vu that's not. We won't go there, but
Okay.
we played 3-on-3 at Hoop Fest in Spokane and won that often. And we just had a blast with it. But that's actually where I blew my knee, was playing up in Havre, Montana. We went to play the team Northern before their national tournament. And I blew my knee then. And that's when I was talking about trying out. That's when the WNBA wasn't there. It was the ABL.
Hmm.
But that answered that question.
Okay. And so that's why you didn't play in the ABL, right? I
Correct.
mean, yeah, yeah. Although that league, I think it was 2 seasons, right? It was over, I
Yeah,
think,
it didn't last
after.
very long. Didn't
Yeah,
last.
yeah, unfortunately. Okay, so what was the landscape in 1998 when you established your agency when it comes to player contracts and how women athletes were created? Because we have some stories, but those are just retold because people are probably ashamed of what was going on. Like the thing that I remember that I was like researching was that WNBA players were originally they were marketed as sort of sex symbols. They tried marketing them that way, which was really strange because I mean, okay. So anyway, what was the scene like?
Well, first of all, the reason I started my agency is a good friend of mine that played at Montana went to play for the Utah Stars the first year when the WNBA started.
Mhm.
And she did very well. She started as a developmental player and ended up starting at the end of the season. And I kept asking her, Greta, are you talking to them? Have you talked about next year? What's your contract look like? And she'd just say, no, no, I'm scared to. And finally one day she said, will you call them for me? And I said, sure. So I pick up the phone and call them, and they said, well, are you her agent? And I'm like, yeah, yes, I am. So that's where I started. I knew nothing. All I knew was my experience I had had with my agents. And so I just started kind of tagging along with a agent in Missoula, Montana, a football agent, and talked to a whole bunch of coaches. And I'm lucky that my coach, Robin Selvig, is tied into like kind of the good old boys club. And so I had a bunch of of help and people putting their arms around me and leading me, which now you couldn't do that. There's too many agents, but there weren't very many then. So I learned as we went. But the
Okay.
WNBA, I don't really know that it was marketed that way. I've never really heard that.
There were some attempts. I heard like players like I think there was a podcast and Rebecca Lobo reminisced that they were trying to market her that way. I
Oh,
remember
I'm
something
sure
like that.
individually. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
probably
yeah.
take off on like volleyball, the, beach volleyball look
Yeah.
or the short shorts and that. And, whatever they thought would make it work. It's hard. It's very, very hard to compete in the summer.
Hmm.
And you can't compete in the winter because you didn't have the venues and the men are playing. So the only gap was the summer to play. And people are doing other things in the summer. So they're tried everything to get people to games. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that was maybe one of the early thoughts.
Yeah, I just heard that it was like one of the thoughts, and but they dismissed it, thankfully, because I mean,
Yeah, quickly.
unfortunately, in Poland, like our league tried it a couple of years ago, which shows you just there's still a
Hmm.
lot of work to be done on like the level of
Yeah,
society. So your friend was your first client actually,
she's my
and
first
then
client.
how? Yeah, so how did your reputation then spread? Was it by word of mouth?
Yeah, I went like Gary Blair was at Arkansas. He's a big name in college basketball over here, and he had
Hmm.
me come out and meet with his athletes. And you got the Bill Finleys and just all the older the coaches at that time just put their faith in me. And like I said, there was like 5 or 6 of us, so it wasn't that hard just to go in and do it the right way and build your reputation. And I'm still doing that. I'm still building, I'm still getting new contacts. And the fun thing now is a lot of the athletes that I represented as players are now becoming coaches. And again, aging myself, but that's pretty fun too. And I'm getting to work with them as a coach now. So it's a nice transition.
Yeah, yeah, and continuity is also important, right?
That was the word I wanted.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Good work.
Thank you. Okay, and now I got confused. Okay, so I wanted to also ask you, because you said that you build contacts, and how did you build international contacts back then? Because
Oh
now
my
it's
God.
just like I can reach out to you via WhatsApp, right? I'm in Poland, you're in Idaho, and we're talking, right? So
It's amazing. And
yeah.
so when I first started, there was a book. There was a book you could purchase. I
Hmm.
mean, like a phone book, and it had all the teams and the contacts. So I literally would fax, if anyone knows what faxing is anymore, I would fax my player list to everyone I could find a number for. And then if they were interested in a player, I had to take a VHS tape of that player and FedEx it overseas to them. Talk about cost and
Yeah.
time. I mean, slow. And now, today everything is instant. If I text somebody or they text me and you don't get right back to them, you're going to lose the job. And
Hmm.
it's amazing how far it's come. And I tell my players too, when they're complaining about being overseas, I'm like, don't even. We didn't have internet. I didn't get to do this. I didn't get to FaceTime with my family. I had to call collect, on a payphone.
Yeah.
So it's really come a long ways and it's made it so much easier. And so now, Facebook, as much as I'm not a big fan of Facebook, that's where I find the contacts and I hit them and hopefully they write back and then I try to move over to WhatsApps, but it's pretty handy to be able to make those contacts now.
Okay. And do you
And then
have,
traveling, I go visit
yeah,
and meet people and again I feel like when you do things the right way, the good word spreads.
yeah,
And so I try to always keep that in mind.
yeah. And if I may ask, in what countries do you have contacts? Because it's on your website, but again, if you could like tell our listeners or viewers.
Almost everywhere. So all throughout Europe.
Okay.
I don't do much in Russia now. I'm not in Israel. I've had a lot of players in Israel, but right now I'm not
Hmm.
suggesting they go there. And it's just safety. It's just
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
It's
in
nothing
any
political, it's just safety. Yeah.
not at all. Just safety. I've got coaches from Lebanon hitting me all the time, and I'm just like, is it safe there? I can't
Hmm.
imagine having my player somewhere where I wouldn't put my player somewhere where I wouldn't put my own child. So, I mean, that's says enough there. But gosh, Spain, France, Italy, Bulgaria, Romania, Germany, Greece, I mean, anywhere you can name. I think I've had players. I've got a girl in Croatia. I've got a phenomenal girl playing right now in Poland. I don't know if you know Robbie Ryan's killing the league there.
Okay, yeah.
She's with, I won't try to say it, I can't say it,
No,
Roclaw.
no.
How do you say that?
Wrocław, Wrocław.
Yeah, I was close.
Yeah,
Wlocław.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're having a very good season, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. So, but yeah, all over the place.
Hmm.
Luxembourg, Finland, Sweden, Iceland,
Yeah,
Spain,
and
Portugal.
Luxembourg is very underrated, actually, right? Because their team is actually pretty good. They are investing in their basketball program, so
Yeah.
that's really a good direction for players
The
to
cool thing
just
with
take.
Luxembourg is it's such a small little country.
Hmm.
And I know when I visited, I was like, wow. But all the Americans, and if there's only one per team, they all are within 10 minutes of each other. So they
Yeah,
can hang out and reach out and such. So they're not so alone.
yeah, and there's like 700, I think, thousand inhabitants.
Wow.
So that's really, really small, right? Uh, and okay, if I may ask now, what's the big, okay, one more thing maybe, because you also have international players. So who
Mhm.
was your first player outside of the United States? Do you remember that you,
You're stretching me now.
okay, okay, sorry.
I haven't had a ton of them, but I'm trying to think who my
Because I'm interested, maybe let's forget the name, but maybe how did they reach out to you? Because this is interesting. How a player from without the internet yet, or with the internet in its early phases,
Mhm.
reach out to you, an agent in America.
So back then, I probably didn't have any international players. And
Okay.
if I did, it would have come from having a teammate, having one of my players there, and it would have been one of their teammates saying, hey, my agent could help you with this. That would be probably the only way
Hmm.
back then. But I don't think I had a lot of international players then.
Okay. Okay. And what was the hardest situation you ever first faced as an agent?
Regarding players or teams
Yeah,
or
like maybe your player was in a situation that needed your intervention.
there's always a lot of little issues. And I always tell the girls, if you don't tell me, I can't fix it if I don't know it's broke. But I mean, there's tiny little things like, the hardest thing overseas is different than America. Is a lot of things in Europe are tomorrow, right? We'll do that tomorrow. We'll get that tomorrow. And does tomorrow ever come? It's like we're here, everything is we're so stressed over here, right? And tomorrow, I mean, over there, they're laid back. So getting things on time, getting the internet actually, I mean, when I'm sending a player over and I signed a contract 2 months ago, you'd think the club would have their housing ready. They'd have the internet installed. They'd know where they're going to live. And sometimes they get there and they put in a hotel because they don't have their house yet. And it's like, come on. But major issues, there hasn't been a whole bunch, really.
Mhm. But that's actually good, right? Because
Yeah,
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 it's
but it's important for the girls to know that I work for them, not the team. And there's a lot of agents, and I'm not slamming anybody, but that are more concerned with their relationship with the team because that's for future years. But
mhm.
that athlete needs an advocate, and that's my job. So if they're wrong, if they're in the wrong, I tell them, and I'll say, no, you signed a contract and you need to abide by this, and you're breaking the contract, so you're wrong. But if they're not getting what they're supposed to get, I advocate for them and make sure that happens, or I make them sit until they're paid. I mean, there's been situations where my athletes haven't been paid. There's been, and you have to take them to FIBA. An example in Italy, we fought FIBA, we won because they didn't pay my girl, and then so they just drop a division, and they can't bring
Mhm.
Americans over, but they never paid. So again, it's not like here, and I tell the girls it's not like American basketball. It's not as structured usually. And it's more, you got to go for all the right reasons. You're going for the experience, to learn a new culture, to travel the world, and to play basketball. And, everybody has a different balance of, and to make some money. So,
Yeah. because it's very different than in America when it comes to funding as well.
Oh yeah.
So this also creates a lot of issues because in some cases now I'm not like defending everyone, but some people have their hearts in the right places. It's just that they don't have the means to do something, and they somewhat try to fix things, and it only gets worse. So
Well,
that's
and there are situations over there that like I try to make the girls understand, like in Greece, I love sending players to Greece. I love the country, I love the people. But they're late paying often because the government is late paying them.
yeah.
And there's nothing they can do about that. It's all, and that's the same in Romania. You know, if the government is funding you and the government's late, then it's late. There's nothing you can do. And I have, managers and coaches trying to give my players their personal money and just to keep them happy. So it's tough. In America, payday is payday.
Hmm.
There's no way around that.
Yeah.
So that's very different.
Yeah. Although there's a lot of people who are also shady, and you need to look out for them, right? So it's
Oh,
like
for sure. Everywhere.
depends. Yeah. Yeah. So what are the red and green flags when deciding on an agent? Say I'm a talented player, which is the biggest lie of 2025. And well, what should I look out for, or what should I look for in an agent?
So I would talk to people that I would ask them for a client list, and I would talk to some athletes and everybody. It's such a small world. The basketball world is so intertwined that everybody knows somebody that's with. Usually I would question athletes that they have and see what they like, what they don't like. A big red flag, but it's kind of just changed this week, is when an agent tries to charge an athlete for overseas because the team pays a commission, right? So the team pays
Hmm.
me 10%, and I split that with my partner if I've used a partner, and it shouldn't cost the athlete anything. This week, they changed that. So now the teams no longer can pay agents. So that whole dynamic will change.
Okay.
However, how it should work is if I'm negotiating a gal, let's say for ease of numbers, a $20,000 contract. Okay, it's going to be a $22,000 contract.
Hmm. Yeah.
2,000, the club will pay the player will pay me. So the player isn't losing and they're not really paying, but I fear that in time, the clubs might just kind of try and wash that out. So that has changed. But I would make sure that that agent really explains that to the player. I'd make sure that they're being honest about their client list. I mean, there's agents out there that say that they fault me because I have too many clients. My comeback is I have a lot of clients for a reason,
Hmm.
and I hope that all my clients feel like they're my only client because it's my full-time job. 24/7 I'm available. But a lot of them say they don't have very many, but they're hiding their clients under their overseas partner site, for example. So they have hundreds, but they say, oh, I only have 20. Um, I think it's important to go with someone that only represents females. And I think maybe multi-sport can be difficult. When I say that, there's some top agencies that have top players. And yeah, no, they do way more than I could ever do for some of these players, these top, 10% and 5% of players, because they have the facilities, they have the trainers, they have all of this stuff because they have the big men, right? So like a Caitlin Clark, for example,
Hmm.
right? I can't do her justice because her agents have everything known to man as far as resources and help. So what was
Okay.
that?
Yeah, awesome. And what qualities should a good agent possess? Now let's assume the second biggest lie of 2025, that I was a great basketball player and I want to stay with basketball. It's just I don't want to do coaching, right? I'm not interested in coaching, but I want to become an agent. So how will I know whether I will be a good agent in the future?
For me,
Yeah, from
there's
personal experience. Yeah.
there's a few things that I stick to. I want to be available for my athletes. If they need me, I want to be there. I don't want to get back to them in a week. Uh, I think communication and honesty and being in it for the right reasons, knowing that, I mean, I love what I do. Exactly what you just said. I want to stay in the sport. The sport made me who I am. It gave me so much, and to be able to give back and to walk alongside my athletes and help them to earn their way to live out their dreams is really a cool journey for me. but I want to be that confidant for them. I want to be there when they need something. I want to be their friend. Some of my best friends are girls I represented, but I want to know in that a good game or a bad game. I want to know if their internet's down. I want to just go on that journey with them. And so I think if you're not honest and you're not in it for the right reasons, and if you're not accessible, then that's tough. A lot of new agents out there. I think you got to make sure that, it's easier to get contacts, but a lot of teams get pretty stuck in who they want to work with and who they trust. So a brand new agent with not a very big client list might be tough to go to, just because are they really going to get me the job? Yeah, so I think those are just a good person. You want a good person. When I am recruiting girls in college, that whole landscape has changed now since the NIL, because you couldn't really have contact. You could have contact. The rules are nothing of value exchanged and no promises made. But now with NIL, it's a whole new ball game, and that's name, image, and likeness, right?
Yeah.
So I always just go through college coaches. I never contact the kids directly. I think that their season at hand is too important for the distraction of an agent. And now, agents are on them when they're freshmen. So it's too, if I wait till the end, I'm
Yeah,
not going
even
to
in
have
high school, right? They already
even high
have like
school.
NIL deals. Yeah.
Crazy. So now I have to be a little bit more proactive. And I've actually met with girls at the coaches. Okay. I've gone to a game and the coach will pull players out to meet me after the game, which I still think is a bit of a distraction, but at least they know I'm there, and available and watching. And I tell them, I said, there's plenty of reason, plenty of time after the season to do all this, but just know I'm here and I'm interested.
Yeah.
So the landscape has changed a ton.
Yeah. And I think that it's changed through the years. Yet since 1998, I'm doing my math. 20, how many is it? 30 years? No, 20. My math is really bad. I'm
Of the
sorry.
WNBA.
No,
Oh,
you're an agent for 28. Your agency
yeah,
has been running in 20 from for has been running for 28 years.
28, I think. Yeah.
28, yeah, and you were able
Somewhere
to
around that.
adapt. So that's just incredible. And thank you for sharing your incredible story and your incredible journey.
Oh, you
And
bet.
yeah.
Let me just a little tag. I used to be like super busy, like from like say 5 in the morning until like 2. And then
Mhm.
you guys don't go to bed at midnight, but some of you do. You guys stay up late over there, man. But at like 2 on, I was pretty chill because everybody's asleep over there.
Mhm.
Now I'm really busy in Australia. Like last year, I had 30 plus players in the NBL one in Australia, which is their lower league,
Mhm.
summer league, or be
The
their
summer
winter,
league, yeah.
league. But yeah. And so
Yeah.
now at like 2, that's when they're waking up. So now it's like it's nonstop, but it's so fun over there because I played there. And I actually had a contact last year from a guy, and he's a coach there. And I'm like, Bernie Slattery, like my coach when I played for the Sydney Flames. And he's like, oh my God, Jeanne, yeah. So it's just super fun. And the girls that I played with over there, are coaches, and the world is really small. And I am so fortunate to have so many connections. Anywhere I go, I have so many people that I can go see and that will take care of me and I can reach out to, and just so a world of friends. It's an amazing job I have.
Yeah, it's really sounds like it. And so thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing your story and sharing the info about what being an agent is all about. And if you could again, well, not again, if you could tell us where we can find you, what's your website and what's the name of your agency again, just to repeat it.
It's 2X Inc. and just 2xinc.com. The number 2 letter X, inc.com is my website.